Welcome back to the Whiskey Explorer. Guys, we have a really exciting episode for you tonight. I've got a new guest tonight. We've got Ross joining us, and of course, my buddy that you know well now, Kyle. Not so much the rookie he used to be, sliding into the intermediate slot for tonight. There. So we are back with another awesome review for you guys, and tonight we are doing none other than Blanton's Single Barrel Whiskey. So, this is a bit of a unicorn whiskey around these parts. So this is pretty readily available in most markets, but strangely enough, it's not available that readily in the US for some reason. So this is a Buffalo Trace Distillery product, and as such, it's one of their more premium offerings, so it's allocated. So they've only got a certain number of bottles that will reach certain states and certain markets. So here in Canada, we're lucky where we actually have the opportunity to get Blanton's. Now, that being said, I could not find that anywhere at our province BC liquor stores. I also couldn't really find it in many private stores. I found it at one small, very small private store, and it was about 120 Canadian dollars plus taxes. So a very expensive bourbon, and I just wasn't really ready to kind of pay that price for it. Luckily, I was on another YouTube live stream, I think, and there was somebody in Calgary who had their eye out for it, and they had seen it on sale at Craft Cellars in Calgary. And so my brother picked this up for me in Calgary for $67.99 Canadian, plus tax. And the nice thing about Alberta is they have very little tax there by comparison to here. So not a big liquor tax and not a big government tax either. So I think it was probably about 70 bucks Canadian. So that's a steal for a bottle of Blanton's. So Blanton's normally in the US, if you're going to find a bottle, it's going to be between about $50 to $60 retail. So getting it for about 70 Canadian was great. So a little bit about the background. There is a ton on Blanton's and Buffalo Trace and the history of Blanton's. It is definitely one of the most iconic looking bottles in the bourbon world. So if I bring that just a little bit closer, you guys can have a look at that beautiful bottle there. It's got kind of the, what do you call that, kind of faceted glass on it, as well as it's got the rider. So what's cool is that each bottle has a rider as the cork stopper, and if you collect all of those, you'll actually spell out B-L-A-N-T-O-N-S, Blanton's. So my brother picked out the rider in the final position, so they start off with the B at sort of the horses kind of not even galloping yet, and it goes all the way through to the end of the race, and so the S of the Blanton's is the horse rider, or the jockey with the hand raised in victory for winning the race, which it's a Kentucky bourbon, so it's a throwback to the Kentucky Derby. So that's why they've got kind of the horse riding theme going on there. So Blanton's is named after Colonel Albert Blanton, and he was a mainstay at the Buffalo Trace Distillery. So he actually started off when it was the OFC Distillery, and he worked there for about 55 years, and he had almost every job at the distillery under the sun, and eventually also became the president of the actual plant, the distillery where they were making bourbon. And he actually hired his successor, who was Elmer T. Lee, who ended up becoming Buffalo Trace's first master distiller. And in honor of his old boss, Albert B. Blanton, he came up with this first ever single barrel bourbon called Blanton's Bourbon, as a kind of homage to his former mentor, I suppose. So what's cool about that is single barrel. We know that single barrel whiskeys are each sort of, so if you get a bottle of Blanton's or any kind of single barrel offering, we know that it is going to be unique. So my bottle of Blanton's might be different from your bottles of Blanton's because they came from different single barrels. So a single barrel would mean that you take a single barrel of the Blanton's whiskey. In this case, if we read on the label here, it says that it came from Warehouse H, and it was on Rick #1, and it was bottled on, or sorry, the whiskey was dumped on 1-8-19. So 2019, and they actually hand label and hand print all of these labels, and it's at 93 proof or 46.5% alcohol by volume. So this particular barrel was picked from that location and dumped into probably approximately 250 bottles. So those 250 bottles would be unique to that exact barrel that came out of that warehouse. And that's where you get the term single barrel from.
What's the other number that's on it? Is that
the other number that's on there is from barrel number 3323. So they would actually number the barrels so they can track where the whiskey came from. Good mechanism for quality control or anyone who's interested. There are actually Blanton's fanatics out there that will collect certain barrels that were dumped on certain days. Lots of times people want it for say they have a birth of a child, they're going to look for that specific bottle of Blanton's that was dumped on their child's birthday. So there are people out there that are kind of really fanatical about collecting, and actually Blanton's has a couple of different options for if you are collecting the stoppers here. They've got a stave, so basically a barrel stave, and they've kind of hollowed out the mounts for the barrel toppers, or sorry, for the bottle toppers, and so you can actually display them. So there's different kind of people. It depends on how crazy you want to go for Blanton's, but Blanton's does happen to be one of those brands where it does have a following. I have never tried it, so I'm looking forward to opening the bottle and checking it out. I do know that they, as I said, they do have a strong following, and people tend to people who like Blanton's love Blanton's. That's what they generally say. So, yeah. So you guys excited and ready to get into this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go. So, this one does have this really cool kind of topper that we already kind of discussed on there, and then it's also got quite a thick black wax seal. So that's kind of reminiscent of Maker's Mark. So Maker's Mark they're gonna hand dip all of their bottles in the red, Maker's Mark wax that everyone kind of knows. Blanton's does that with this kind of black wax, and then they've got just on the side there, let's bring it a bit closer, they've got a couple of pull tabs there so you can remove the wax and open the whiskey. So I'm just gonna do that now. There we go. And it's really nice how it all just kind of comes off as one piece like that. You don't have to worry about a mess, whereas the Maker's Mark tends to create quite a mess when you're removing it, because the Maker's Mark, they've got it coming all the way down the neck of the bottle, and it's just, honestly, I don't like Maker's Mark, so I don't own a bottle and haven't owned a bottle, but from people that do drink Makers, it's a pain in the butt to have all that wax in the way. So I like this kind of clean, nice, sleek system a lot better. So you remove the wax, and then you've got just the stopper on there. And I do have to say, this is a beautiful looking bottle. I really like it. Love the design. Like the horse rider theme, throwback to the Kentucky Derby. And I think I'm going to turn this into a lamp when I'm kind of through with the bottle. So cool. Yeah, that'll be the fate of this one here. Cool, yeah. So I have to be honest and say that is part of the reason that I wanted a bottle of Blanton's, is because I did want to make a bourbon lamp. But yeah, let's get into this here. So I'll just remove the cork. Yeah, there we go. A nice little cork stopper. And guys, when I haven't handled this bottle too much because I was really careful not to break the wax before opening it. But that is actually like a brass or a metal topper, the horse kind of cork stop on there. So real cork, which I always like. Very bourbony. So this is a Kentucky straight bourbon. Again, it's bottled at 46.5 alcohol by volume or 93 proof. So it's a pretty respectable proof. I would like to see it even higher. If you want to get a higher ABV or proof for Blanton's, you're going to have to look to their other offerings. I do know that they have a barrel proof Blanton's offering, so that would be uncut, so no water added, at full strength as it comes right out of the barrel. But that is quite expensive, so I think that one probably runs you at least $130 or more US per bottle for the barrel strength version. So for us here in Canada, that's about $160, $170. It's kind of out of my wheelhouse in terms of what I can spend on bourbon, but this would be their introductory kind of Blanton's offering. So let's get a pour of this going and we'll give it a taste. It is a very, very nice looking bottle, nice weight and balance to it. I love the gluggy glug glug. There we go. It's a nice healthy pour there for Kyle. And where'd that stopper go? Oh, there she is. Perfect. Back in there. I think I see just a little bit of cork on the edge there. I'll see if I can kind of just remove that.
Yeah, I like that bottle. I like how it's kind of like a diamond kind of look to it.
Yeah, it's like faceted, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely got a nice look to it. Nice heavy stopper too. So there's that. All right, so we'll take a quick look at the color before we get into nosing on this. So in our light here, I'm seeing a pretty like light kind of caramel color. Sort of a medium, no, not medium, it's actually more of a light copper. It's a little lighter than I thought. Now, Blanton's single barrel, it does not have an age statement, but the whiskey that is in the barrel, or in this case in the bottle and in the glass, is thought to be about 8 years old. Okay? So it's not an age-stated bourbon, so we don't know for sure, but rumor on the street has it at about 8 years for this bourbon. So some people online were asking me in the whiskey community, if I'd bought my Christmas bottle yet, and I, kind of thought, well, I can't really afford a Christmas bottle because of Christmas, so I decided to open this one and have this kind of be my special Christmas bottle. So I'll probably bring that to a couple of family events and let the bourbon connoisseurs in the family have a taste of that one.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so we'll kind of have a look at the color there. We kind of covered that. We'll take a nosing here. So right off the bat, I get lots of caramel coming on the nose there.
Smoky.
Yeah, there's a little bit of barrel char there for sure. And this is Buffalo, I believe this is Buffalo Trace Mash Bill number 1. I'm not sure, and I will correct that with something on the screen if I'm wrong. I definitely do already start to get that rye spice on the nose there. Some black pepper maybe in the background, just a little bit of spice, some cinnamon.
I was going for the spice as well there, yeah.
Definitely smells sweet, so I definitely get the caramel, kind of butterscotchy, vanilla notes, classic bourbon flavors coming through.
For sure.
Smells really good.
It smells really good.
All right, you guys ready to give it a try?
Let's do it.
Yeah,
a lot of legs I've noticed too.
Yeah, some legs on there for sure. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Like it is sweet. Like a honey.
So there's quite a bit more spice on there than I expected.
Yeah.
So that means there's probably a pretty nice amount of rye going into this whiskey. The spice you typically get in a nice bourbon is going to be from the rye grain. You're going to get kind of those quintessential baking spice flavors, so cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, allspice, that type of thing, brown sugar. That profile is going to be coming from the rye spice. So I definitely got way more of that than I expected to.
Oh, yeah.
The spice, way more than I expected to just from the nose of the whiskey, which is interesting. Not that I don't like it, I enjoy it, but it's more rye than I expected. Now if I go back in after tasting it and I smell it again, then I almost get like really strong rye bread, like to the smell. But really nice bourbon though. Still pretty smooth at that proof.
It is.
Yeah.
Like it's a nice smooth sipper. Nothing too, like, to me anyways, nothing too strong and off-putting with the flavor.
No, not at all.
Sometimes with the higher proof whiskey you can get, even like especially with cask strength with whiskeys, if you're not kind of used to drinking really strong bourbons, you kind of get hit with that alcohol hit, and with it combined with the rye spices, it can be a little bit overwhelming for the palate. But this I don't find that with this at all. Makes sense. It's 46.5%, so it's not super high proof, but at least I like that it's at that proof. That it's like 46.5.
Right.
I like that it's not 40% or 42, 43% like a lot of scotches you see that they want to bump up the ABV. So they go from the baseline, which is your common whiskeys like Glenfiddich 12 or something that's going to be your standard 40%, They pump that up, but they only go up a little bit, like to 43%. So it's nice to see. I like in general in the bourbon world that you're going to have higher ABV, higher proof. So it's nice to see this at that 46.5. I think you're getting much better value than if it was bottled at a lower ABV. Like if this was at 40%, I don't think I would have even bought it. So
Right.
I get more of the flavor coming through at that higher proof. So
Would you add water to this one?
I don't think I would on this one. I don't think the water is going to do it any favors. I think it would probably thin it out a little bit. It definitely could handle a bit of water, but I think it's going to thin it out. If anything, I think it would probably bring out the alcohol notes a little bit and also go a little bit more sweet.
Right.
So it might take away a bit of the complexity of that one. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'd add water to it. I like the way it is.
Mm-hmm. It does remind me a little bit of the Colonel E.H. Taylor small batch, which I love that whiskey. I haven't had the E.H. Taylor single barrel, but anything in the Colonel E.H. Taylor line is delicious that I've tried so far. So. That's good.
That's very nice.
On that sip I got lots of vanilla.
Yes. Yeah.
Like lots of the classic kind of caramel vanilla coming through. Immediately on the palate, as Kyle said, it's immediately for me it's the sweetness.
Yep.
That comes from the corn in the mash bill. So with bourbon you're dealing with mostly corn based whiskeys. And Canadian whiskey actually too is the same. So a lot of our Canadian whiskey is corn based. And that's what you end up kind of craving is that sweetness, right? So you definitely, with the Blantons, that delivers immediately. You get the kind of vanilla ice cream, kind of caramel flavors, butterscotch.
I definitely got a lot of like caramel butterscotch, like you were just saying in the last sip.
Yeah. And then for me, it kind of fades into the spices. So then I get like a little bit of black pepper, some cinnamon, a little bit of allspice. Not much clove, but definitely like some nutmeg, some of those more kind of classic baking spice notes. That's kind of middle and sides of my tongue. Like the finish is all the spice,
right.
I find. So not as much sweetness on the finish, more the spices on the finish.
Right.
So nice. I think it's really nice, really, really nicely balanced bourbon. It's very good in that respect. I will say for like bourbon aficionados or like connoisseurs of bourbon, people that love bourbons, if you really are looking for like a really deep, challenging bourbon, I'm not sure this is it, because this is to me the very classic bourbon profile. Like flavor profile's really classic. It's definitely complex, it's multi-layered, there's lots to discover there, it's really enjoyable that way, but it's not like, it doesn't push you out of the comfort zone. It's kind of running right down the middle of the kind of classic bourbon flavor notes, right. I find. So, but really good. I think it's actually got a really decent mouth coating to it too. So it has a nice mouthfeel to it. So that means it's not too thin, and it doesn't say whether or not it's unchill filtered. But we know for all bourbons they're uncolored, so this would just be the color from the barrel. But I would hazard to guess that it is non-chill filtered. I'm not sure on that. I'd have to look it up. But nice medium kind of I would say it's actually pretty long finish.
Yeah,
medium to long finish on there. So I think it's definitely.
I still have the taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I do too. Absolutely.
Yep.
So I think this is definitely one to check out. Like I would buy this bottle again, I think.
Yeah.
As well, you get that sweet bottle and that cool cork stopper. So
Gotta collect them all.
You got to collect them all. It's like
it
Pokemon.
Just sells
really.
it right there. It's the horse.
It's the adult Pokemon, really.
100%.
Collect them all.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, that kind of does it for our review. So I think this for me is definitely a buy. I think you guys enjoyed it as well.
I liked it. I'd buy it.
I'd buy it, and this is my first bourbon, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go. Awesome. No, that's a good bourbon to try for your first bourbon. So I'm glad it was a good one. Yeah. All right, guys. Awesome. Well, till next time. May your sails be full and your drams be fuller. Cheers.
Cheers.